We're not against rap. We're not against rappers. But we are against those.
Something big about to happen. I hear the beat tapping.
We some fly rhyming felines rapping on the track. Better yet, grab a gat, cause we hot like
Enzo, doors closed, windows up, cause that's the way we like to ride. Windy City hitting.
check mic 1 2 1 2. We live, baby. Yo, what's up, Chicago? And welcome back to episode 635 of Speak Your Mind Radio, season 18. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Queen Star, aka Ms. Hip Hop. And today, you guys, we have a very special guest with us all the way from Charleston, South Carolina, okay?
I live in Georgia. I'm right out of Grovetown, Georgia. That's Charleston's where I'm from.
Oh, okay, my bad. Well, from Georgia, by the way of South Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. He's a singer, a writer, a producer, and an entrepreneur who's operating under his imprint, BrizzyMuzik LLC. And he's here to discuss his newly released album called Soulfly. So without further ado, up next to the mic, the one and the only WillSouliii III. What's up, Will?
Yo. Peace, love, and blessings. A pleasure to be here. This is a breath of fresh air. I'm a fan of your work, and it was an honor when you reached out to me. It was like, yo, would you come on my podcast?
Yes.
I'm still up and coming artist, so I don't be thinking like people be noticing me. So, I'm just out here doing what I do.
Oh, that's dope. And I appreciate your support. And I'm glad I reached out to you because your music is what drew me to you, you know?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, as you know, here on Speak Your Mind Radio, we start off each and every interview with an icebreaker question. So let's get started. All right. So, Will, if your music style was like turned into a food plate, what would be on the menu and why?
That's good. I'd probably say it'd be some red snapper. It'd probably be some oxtails. It'd probably be, I don't know, some good old Southern fried chicken. I do what I do. I'm a chef it up in the kitchen too. I do it in the lab and in the kitchen. So, you might have some mac and cheese, that Patti LaBelle recipe, and then some collards. Yeah. I'm getting hungry thinking about it.
Yes, me too. Sure. I gotta get some of that oxtail and mac and cheese.
I just did some oxtails this past Sunday. Man, when I tell you it was fire. It was fire.
If it's like your music, that's what it is.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I gotta ask you, for the people that don't know, because we've had conversations through the DM when I reached out and everything. Tell everybody out there how poetry was a background to your music. Like you did poetry first before you started making music, correct?
Yes. So I think it was around 10th grade. I was in English lit, and I struggled in like the grammar part. I made it, but I struggled. But when we got to lit, my teacher was like, you really get this. He was like, you're a poet, and I kind of took that to heart, and then I started writing. But I was already kind of like rapping and freestyling and, in the freestyle sessions that's, in high school. And it just made sense. It just resonated. I'm a feeler. I'm a Cancer. So, naturally I feel. So, and just kind of immerse myself, in whatever piece, you're reading or you're studying, and just kind of took off from there. And you got WillSouliii III now. So it's like, some years later, but yeah, I just always had a passion for it. So, occasionally I'll bless a speakeasy and, drop a couple of bars on them with some spoken word, Yeah.
Definitely. It's all in your music, which is why I wanted to ask you that, for the people, like I said, that haven't heard your music just yet. So Will, being like an independent artist from Georgia by the way of South Carolina, what challenges have you faced while building your career? Because you do have a career in this. You're not just doing this for fun.
So um, it's funny. A few years ago, when I got back from working overseas in Europe and Germany, um, I got back here and had evolved, had reestablished myself. Learn took some master classes and learned how to navigate, Logic Pro, do stuff myself. And I went to an event. It was like an artist event, and I walked in. Of course, the the atmosphere was a little younger than I am. So of course they was like, hey, what you DJ? What you? I'm like, no, I'm an artist. And it was just kind of funny to me. And hindsight 2020, fast forward, now we're in 2026. You know, and now some of them same people, they respect, they respect my gangster, so to speak. But it was just funny at that point in time when I was trying to, establish myself, get out, network, meet some people in my area that was doing what I was doing. It was just kind of weird. It was like a weird vibe. Who this old dude is, It's like kind of like that. But we here. I ain't going
Yeah.
nowhere. So
That's right. You shouldn't go anywhere because I really do enjoy your voice. It's soothing to me because I know that there's spoken word coming out of you. You know what I mean? And that's my first love. So I appreciate that about your music.
and
Um,
I recognized that when you shared one of your pieces with me, I was like, oh, I said, sis do spoken word. I know she do spoken word, and then
mhm,
you was like, yeah, you validated that. So yeah. So
definitely.
naturally, yeah.
We gravitated toward each other.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me, oh yeah. How did it feel to have your song "We Gon' Make It" featured on NPR Tiny Desk Contest?
You know, it felt good. It felt great. But I know that, there's a lot of artists that compete every year and they only select one. But just to be on their website, I'm a big Tiny Desk fan. So um yeah, and I still say I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna get a Tiny Desk concert at some point before this is said and done. I believe in speaking things into existence, and that's how I'm here where I am now. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it was a good feeling, and I almost, to be transparent, I almost didn't submit this year. It was kind of last. I think I did it on the last day that it had to be submitted to get, judged by the committee, to say yay or nay if they're gonna put it on the website or not, and then enter you into the contest. But yeah, because I did it last year for the first time with my song "Good Vibrations," and
Mm.
yeah, so yeah, it was a good feeling. It was.
If you could change anything about how you did the contest, what would you change? Like, would it be the song selection, the background? What would it be for you?
Um, I tried, but I probably would have tried harder to get a band
Ooh.
to to have more of a live feel because I've been noticing that the past winners, they usually got a band, people actually playing live instruments, yeah. So and that's where I wanted to get to this year, but didn't quite get there. But there's always next year, so we'll see.
Definitely, definitely. Now you wear many hats in this game. You're not only a singer and a writer, but a producer. Which part of the process do you enjoy more?
That's a good question. Creating is probably like one of it's my serendipity. It's my peace. It's my safe place. No matter what going on in the world, I can always turn to my music. She ain't never failed me. She ain't never let me down. Um, so I create the vibe when I create the music, and then depending on like how the music moves me, then the lyrics come after that. Because people always ask me what's my process, and I'm like I might be a little off the cuff, but that's how I do it. The music influences what comes out. So how I moved, and then it just starts going in.
So you basically in flow state when you hear that frequency in the music.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's not backwards. That's raw. I love it. Um, okay. Will, when you're like performing on stage versus recording in the studio, what's the difference in the energy?
The energy, so I'm a big Crit fan, and he had a song a couple of albums back called "I Need Your Energy," right? And I always say that, and I feed off of the vibe and the energy. But as an artist, you ain't got no paid hype man on stage. You got to get the audience involved. But once you got them hooked,
Mm-hmm.
that's a great feeling, because now they hanging on your every word. Now they rocking with you, they vibing with you. Y'all in sync. That vibration, you know what I'm saying, is being reciprocated back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I did a car and bike show a couple of weekends ago, coming off of being sick with bronchitis, and you know, everybody, include my wife, like, hey, you shouldn't do it. And I'm like, nah, the show must go on. I'm like, nah, I got people coming to see me. I got people waiting on me. The event coordinator I know personally. I'm like, if he put it together, it's gonna be solid, which it was. And I'm like, nah, I ain't gonna let him down. That's a plus. It's an opportunity to get in front of folks, opportunity to, put my brand out there, introduce them to the album, to my music, to
Mm-hmm.
me. Yeah. So and even at about maybe 65, 70%, you know, it still went over well. And people respected, the art and the love that I put behind it and into that performance. And even did 4 songs. I was amazed. I was supposed to just probably do 2, but it was like, hey, can you do another one? And can you do another one? And then it wanted more, but so we only mixed 4 for the show. So, because my engineer was there with me, and he's like, yeah, he said we're gonna do a show mix for the whole album. That way the next time we in this situation, we can just run it. So it was a learning lesson. But to answer your question, is that feeling. Just, having people there that resonate with your music, your sound, and they rock with you.
Definitely. And speaking of rocking with you and your music and your style, let's actually get into the album itself, okay?
Okay.
All right. So, you recently released obviously the album Soulfly. I want to know, like, how long did the production and the writing take to complete this project?
So honestly, um, when I released my first 2 songs back in 2024, released my first song just looking out of my window in like September of 2024, and then Good Vibrations followed in October of 2024. And we got hit by a hurricane in this area. So, for about a week or so, we were without power and everything. And then once we got back running, and I was able to release Good Vibrations, and then I did a performance for that song. But Soulfly, my brother, Mr. Shaft, who's like, my senior, he's like my wisdom. He's been in the game for a while. So, he's kind of like my guy, like my senior exec or producer, you know, and he was like, hey, let's do a let's do a collab album. He's like, your name is Will Soul the Third. He was like, called Soulfly. He was like the 70s movie, you know? And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, yeah, I'm a big Curtis Mayfield fan. So, like, yeah, like bet. But it took 2 years because of being a perfectionist. I had a lot of music already written, but then we started writing for the album. Um, and we didn't want to rush it. The album was actually supposed to drop in 2025.
Oh
And
wow.
and we pushed it and we pushed it. And then last summer we decided to remix and master some of my first stuff. And then I dropped an EP called Windows Vibrations and Life.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of like a filler. And it really introduced people to my music all over again that may have missed it the first time. And then when we dropped the album, it's been bananas.
Yeah.
Um, uh, You're Worth It. We dropped the day after Christmas, and it it had a little traction. But then in January when we dropped, We Gonna Make It. It became like an anthem to the world, especially with everything going on in our country right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and and the song was written, from a place of love, like to let everybody know that hey, despite everything going on around us, we gonna make it. We
Yeah.
always do. We why we gonna stop now? We gonna make it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely. That's an inspirational song and something we needed in 2026 because it's crazy right now and it's only gonna get crazier. So yeah. Okay, I'm gonna tell you one of my standout tracks. You probably already know because like I said, we had conversations before,
Hmm.
but I love Catch the Vibe. You feel me?
Yeah.
That song, bro, you could no, the whole album really you could play at the cookout. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. And Will, I'm gonna be mad at you if you don't make this into a freaking single with a visual. I'm gonna be so
Yes. Yeah.
mad.
Yeah. We are. We are.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Because and I haven't even really introduced the second verse yet, and I'm planning to do that because my boy Danny he did his thing. And he's actually my engineer, Danny Blaze. That's the person that spit the second verse on the song.
Shout out to Danny
Yeah.
Blaze.
Yeah. But yeah. So Catch the Vibe was like it was like almost an accident. It wasn't actually like intended for the album. I was just going to release it at some point, and when Shaft listened to it, and then Danny heard it, and Danny was like, "Yo, let me hop on that with you." I was like, "You serious?" I didn't even know my engineer rap. He's an amazing singer. He kind of give you like the weekend type vibes.
Mm-hmm.
He got that high pitched voice. First tenor alto. For a male. So yeah, and then it took him a couple of months to get his part back to me, but when I heard it, I said, "Yo, Shaft, you got to hit this." Shaft was like, "Yo, I need that. We need to put that
Mm-hmm.
on the album." I said, "So
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna go from 10 to 11?" Like, yep. So that's how Catch the Vibe ended up on Soulfly.
Wow. And you said it was almost an accident. I can't believe it. I can't I can't picture
I was
Soulfly without Catch the Vibe.
I was in here one night vibing and cooked up that beat, and I was like, I call the vibe rolling down 85. It's a blessing to still be
Yes.
alive. You know, if
Mm-hmm.
I was a cassette tape, I remember, I just thought, and it just came out, and it was like, I'm like, bro, you flowing like 95. I was
Yes.
like, yeah. So that's how it came out.
For me, it's like taking a nighttime summer drive, listening to Catch the Vibe, just you and your boo thing, your loved
Hmm.
ones. I love it. Yeah. Okay, so another standout track on the project, Soulfly, would have to be I Wasn't Enough. That song touched my heart. Like, was that from a personal experience for you?
It wasn't it wasn't a personal experience, but I served 23 years in the United States Army. So I've seen a lot. I mentored a lot of people, and it was just one of those things that I saw, living military life. Young folks get married, for the wrong reasons, you know, trying to please somebody that ain't they in it for the ends and not really for you. And then, and then it finally it finally comes to a head and, it, yeah. Cause my wife even asked me, she's like, we've been together, blah, blah, blah. I know that. I said, no, it's nothing about us. But yeah, that's how that song came about. Just from past experiences, things that I seen, things that, I had to help people go through. So yeah. And I know it's every day,
Yeah.
so and that song was actually written 2 years ago.
Oh my God. Lord.
I know.
That is
It's what
amazing.
happens when you try to be a perfectionist, and you and that's the problem with a lot of artists. We are so self-conscious. We're our biggest critics. We're our biggest haters a lot of times. And a lot of times if you just, let the right people hear it and they feed into you and give you good input, and yeah, you got something that you could put out. Yeah. So that's how that one came about.
Definitely. Okay. I it's like I said, I haven't experienced that, but like I said, it just felt so real. But you explained it perfectly that you got your experience from other people's stories and viewpoints. So that's what being like a poet is all about, though, you know?
It is. It is.
Yeah. Not always about us, it's about y'all. Yeah. Okay, I gotta ask you, what is next for Will Soul the Third in 2026? Because you know the summer's coming up.
So more events are in the works. We're planning at some point to do like a pop up at a vinyl shop in the ATL.
Ooh.
Um, I don't want to name the spot until it's locked in, but and do like a vinyl swap. Um, yeah, that's next. We're gonna do we're gonna finally get around to doing an album release party down in Orlando with the rest of the team. Everybody just so busy. We want everybody to be there.
Hmm.
So we're looking probably late July, early August. Let's
Okay.
do the release party. Um, and just it's that time for the team to celebrate me and Shaft on this one. So and then I got a couple of projects. Some other folks want to work. My brother Rob Can Do. He's a hellified producer. Um, him and I, we at some point we gonna do something. We from the same area, so we've been we really resonate. Yeah. I think it's that Gullah Geechee vibe, So, we're both from the South Carolina Low Country, so
Okay.
yeah.
What you call it again?
Gullah Geechee.
Gelagichi?
So being from Charleston, South Carolina, actually from like Jacksonville up to like Virginia, they call that the Gullah Geechee corridor. So quick history lesson. So when the first slaves were brought from Africa, they either filtered through Charleston or Savannah or one of the other main like slave ports. But they grabbed all these African, natives from like the Ivory Coast and the western side of Africa because we were rice growers, we were fishermen, different things like that, and they brought them to like the sea island, the ones that didn't end up in the Caribbean. They ended up, sea islands, on the coast of South Carolina, Georgia, and the African culture is still alive. Of course, it's more of a Creole mix because it's mixed with like some of the African dialect in English, kind of like a patois in Jamaica
Hmm.
or like your French Creole in Louisiana, stuff like that. But it's called Gullah Geechee. So yeah, and I'm actually, so I say Charleston, but I'm originally from James Island. That's one of the sea islands like on the coast of Charleston.
Okay. Okay.
Family, parents still live there. You
Wow.
know, still got a lot of family there. You know, I go there to visit a lot. But yeah, so that's what I mean when I say Gullah Geechee connection.
That's cool. I just learned something new. Gullah Geechee connection. I like saying it. It rolls off the tongue.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a lot of people in Chicago that came from. You find out like they from South Carolina. If you trace them roots back, a lot of them came from like Charleston. Yep,
Wow. I know a lot of them came from Mississippi during the Great
that too.
Migration, but I didn't
That
know
too.
about South Carolina. That's cool.
Hmm.
That's dope. And speaking of Chicago and the connection, hopefully when you drop your your next project, you'll be in Chicago, stopping at the studio live so we can record and talk about it.
Bet, bet.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I was telling you, I love the shy. My wife actually from Southside.
Oh, me too. Hey.
Yeah,
Yes.
so
Shout out to the wifey.
she grew up she grew up not like right by where Ida B. Wells used to be, the old projects before they tore them down. Yeah. East Bowen and King Drive, like that area. And then before my mother-in-law passed, she was like 46 in Drexel, like High Park. So yeah, I know
Wow.
I know a little bit. I done been a corner or two in the shy, so I'm kind of familiar.
Okay.
Now people stay out in the hundreds.
All right. Wow, Hunnits. Y'all already know, South Side. All right,
Yeah.
Will Soul the third. I appreciate you coming on today's show. I want to tell everybody out there to go listen to the project. It is worth every track. Okay, listen and play it at y'all cookouts too, because everybody gonna be like, "Who is that?" You know. But
And it's clean. It's clean. You
yeah,
know,
it's
it's
clean.
clean. Ain't
Hmm.
no profanity. You know, nothing crazy. You know, Big Mama or the kids don't get offended. Like not, yeah.
Exactly. It's perfect. Okay, well, thank you so much, Will Soul the third. Hopefully we'll be seeing you again real soon. I love you, Chicago, and thank you for your listenership. I appreciate it. And don't forget to follow me on Speaking My Radio, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, and Apple Music. Peace out.